Welcome to the Deep Dive from the Moore's Global Finance Podcast team. I'm John, and I'm excited to be your host today.
And I'm Tiffany, here to guide you through today's deep dive.
Today we're exploring Kirk Elliott PhD, a financial consulting company specializing in precious metals. Our deep dive is based on a review of Kirk Elliott PhD from Moore's Global Finance.
From November 22nd, 2024.
Right. So if you're curious about diversifying your portfolio with gold and silver,
or just want to learn more about this company,
you're in the right place.
What's interesting about Kirk Elliott PhD, John, is their emphasis on personalized financial advice. They really seem to prioritize building relationships with their clients.
Yeah, which is not always the norm in the financial world.
Right.
You hear a lot about personalized service these days. But how does that actually play out in practice? Let's say, for example, I'm worried about inflation and want to protect my savings. How would Kirk Elliott PhD tailor a gold and silver investment strategy specifically for me?
Well, that's where their focus on individual needs comes in. Instead of offering a one-size-fits-all approach, they'd likely start by assessing your financial situation, your risk tolerance, and your long-term goals. Then they'd work with you to develop a customized plan that incorporates precious metals in a way that makes sense for you.
Okay, so it's not just about pushing gold and silver on everyone. They're actually taking the time to understand each client's unique circumstances.
Exactly. Now, it's worth noting that Kirk Elliott PhD primarily operates in a few southern states, so their geographical reach is somewhat limited.
So they're not.
This suggests they might be focusing on building deep, localized relationships within their service area, which could be a strategic advantage.
Makes sense. It's easier to build trust when you're a familiar face in the community. Speaking of teams, our source mentions that Kirk Elliott PhD has a pretty diverse internal structure with dedicated teams for everything from client concierge to asset transfer to IT. They even have a leadership team headed by Dr. Kirk Elliott himself, along with Ashley, the CEO, and Aaron, the VP of Operations.
This structure highlights their commitment to providing comprehensive service to their clients. It seems like they've got all their bases covered from the initial consultation to the actual handling and storage of precious metals.
Right, so they're not just giving advice, they're also facilitating the entire investment process.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that I know a lot of people are curious about, precious metals IRAs.
Yeah.
Our source mentions that Kirk Elliott PhD helps individuals incorporate gold and silver into their retirement savings through various types of IRAs.
Including traditional Roth, simple SP, and even 401ks and TSPs.
Wow.
That's important for those who want to diversify their retirement portfolio beyond traditional stocks and bonds.
Right.
They specifically work with self-directed IRAs, which offer more flexibility in terms of investment choices. Think of it like having a custom-built Lego set for your retirement savings.
Okay.
You have more control, but it also requires more assembly and comes with its own set of rules.
Got it. So more flexibility, but also more responsibility on the investor's part. Now, once someone decides to invest in precious metals through Kirk Elliott PhD, where are those assets actually stored?
That's where the Texas Precious Metals Depository, or TPMD, comes in. Kirk Elliott PhD recommends TPMD for secure storage of their clients' precious metals. They emphasize the importance of secure storage, and TPMD seems to offer a lot of attractive features.
Yeah, our source mentions no setup storage or withdrawal fees. They also highlight the competitive annual storage rates, which are based on the value of the metals and could be as low as 0.4%. And get this, they only have a minimum monthly charge of $4.
They also offer fully segregated storage, which means your holdings are kept separate from other clients' assets. It's a detail that underscores their commitment to transparency and individual ownership.
Plus, they have discounted shipping rates for depository withdrawals and even assist with inbound shipping.
You can even track the daily market value of your stored metals.
Wow, it sounds like they've really thought of everything to make the storage process as seamless and cost-effective as possible. But what about security? I mean, we're talking about precious metals here.
You're right to raise that question, John. Security is paramount when it comes to precious metals storage, and TPMD seems to take it very seriously. Their facility boasts features like bulletproof doors, biometric scanners, and even metal detectors.
It's like trying to break into Fort Knox.
Right.
I mean, that level of security is pretty impressive. But security isn't just about physical barriers, right? What about internal protocols and surveillance?
Absolutely. TPMD also has strict internal security protocols, including controlled access personnel monitoring and detailed activity logs. They have 247 surveillance with continuous video recording and security personnel on site. And to top it off, they have direct alarm connections to local law enforcement, ensuring a rapid response in case of any attempted breach.
Okay, so with all those measures in place, it sounds like my precious metals would be pretty safe at TPMD. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about Kirk Elliott's media. This is their educational platform, right?
Exactly. It's a platform where Dr. Kirk Elliott himself breaks down complex financial concepts and offers insights into finance, gold, silver, and economic trends.
So it's like their way of empowering people to make informed financial decisions.
Precisely. They aim to connect global events to personal finances and offer practical strategies for financial security. It's particularly valuable for those who feel overwhelmed by the constant barrage of financial news and want a trusted source to help them make sense of it all. It's a great resource for anyone looking to enhance their financial literacy without feeling overwhelmed. But before we get too carried away with all the positives,
Yeah.
we need to take a look at what customers are saying about Kirk Elliott Precious Metals.
You're right. It's important to get a balanced perspective. What kind of feedback are we seeing?
Well, our source points to a mixed bag of reviews. They have an average rating of 2.83 out of 5 on the Better Business Bureau.
Not quite a gold star rating then. What are some of the specific comments people have made?
On the positive side, some customers praise Kirk Elliott Precious Metals for their professionalism, credibility, and the quality of service they received, particularly for transactions involving silver. They appreciate the personalized approach and the company's efforts to build trust.
That's consistent with what we've learned so far about their emphasis on client relationships.
Yeah.
But what about the negative reviews? What are some of the concerns being raised?
Some reviewers expressed concerns about customer service, the financial advice they received, and even the company's trustworthiness.
Really?
There were even mentions of potential financial losses, which is always a red flag in this industry.
That's definitely concerning. I understand that no company is perfect.
Yeah.
Recurring themes in negative reviews can be a sign of underlying issues.
Absolutely. It's all about doing your due diligence as a potential investor.
Right. So have we got any specific examples of these positive and negative experiences?
Our source highlights some client testimonials. For example, Mason, a content architect, praised the team's responsiveness and willingness to help. Olivia, a development engineer, expressed long-standing trust in Dr. Kirk Elliott and even recommends him to her friends and family.
Those are pretty strong endorsements. But the negative comments mention financial losses. Do we have any specific details on that?
Unfortunately, no. While some individuals reported positive experiences, those comments tended to lack detail. For instance, Elijah, a marketing director, only mentions positive experiences with silver transactions without elaborating it. Emily, who works in neurotechnology, expressed enthusiasm about potential profits, but doesn't offer specifics about the services or advice she received. And on the negative side, some reviewers expressed dissatisfaction with the advice they received regarding selling gold and silver, claiming it would have led to financial losses.
That's a pretty big discrepancy. Positive comments that are vague and negative comments that lack specific details. It sounds like it's difficult to get a clear picture from the customer reviews.
You're right. It's a bit of a mixed bag, which further emphasizes the need for careful research and consideration.
Okay, so let's step back and try to synthesize what we've learned. What are some of the key pros and cons of working with Kirk Elliott PhD?
Our source breaks it down nicely. On the plus side, Kirk Elliott PhD has a specialized focus on gold and silver, which is great for those seeking expertise in that specific area. The commitment to personalized advice is also a big plus, as is their diverse range of service offerings. They cater to individuals, groups, and even businesses.
And we can't forget their expertise and commitment to charitable work. It's always nice to see a company that gives back to the community. But what about the downsides?
The source points to two main drawbacks: limited information on gold IRAs and restricted geographical availability. The lack of in-depth information on gold IRAs could be a deterrent for potential investors specifically interested in that retirement savings avenue.
Yeah.
And their limited geographical reach means their services aren't accessible to everyone.
Those are definitely factors to consider. So, based on everything we've discussed, what's the final verdict? Is Kirk Elliott PhD a reliable company to work with?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. Our source concludes with a cautionary note advising listeners to exercise due diligence before engaging with Kirk Elliott PhD. They recommend independent research comparison with other options and careful consideration of individual needs and circumstances.
So it's not a simple yes or no answer.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's potential, but also some areas of concern.
Exactly. It's essential to weigh the pros and cons carefully and make an informed decision based on your own research and risk tolerance.
Don't just jump in because they seem knowledgeable or charismatic.
Yeah.
Take the time to really understand what you're getting into.
That's a crucial point. And remember, no investment is a guaranteed win. Every investment carries some level of risk, and precious metals are no exception. Gold and silver can be valuable additions to a diversified portfolio, but it's important to have realistic expectations.
So it sounds like the key takeaway here is do your homework. Don't just jump in because someone seems knowledgeable or charismatic. Take the time to really understand what you're getting into.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself as a consumer and as an investor. There's so much information available these days, so take advantage of it. Read reviews, compare different companies, and consult with multiple financial advisors if you need to.
And remember, listeners, there's no such thing as a sure thing when it comes to investments. Every investment carries some level of risk, and precious metals are no exception.
That's a crucial point. Gold and silver can be valuable additions to a diversified portfolio, but they're not a magic bullet. It's important to understand how they fit into your overall financial strategy and to have realistic expectations.
So to sum it all up, Kirk Elliott PhD offers a specialized service with a focus on precious metals. They highlight personalized advice, accessibility, and secure storage. But as with any financial decision, it's crucial to do your own research, weigh the pros and cons, and decide if their approach aligns with your individual needs and goals.
Well said. If this deep dive has sparked your interest, I encourage you to explore Kirk Elliott PhD further. But remember, always do your own research and due diligence before making any financial decisions.
Excellent advice. Thanks for guiding us through this deep dive into the world of Kirk Elliott PhD. And listeners, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive for more in-depth explorations of fascinating topics. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.